Hey everyone, my name is Emmanuel, and welcome to the very first episode of the PGTK Podcast, an interview podcast. And on this episode, this was taken as part of Extra Life's live stream back in 2022. This conversation is with Phil Merget, also known as Patchman Phil. We talk about his origin story as a Mets fan, how New York sports is such a unique place for fandom, and we talk about more things, including collectibles, as this episode rolls along. All I require is for you to follow this podcast. The more follows we have, the more engagement we have, the bigger the guests will be. And without further ado, here is our conversation with Patchman Phil. Phil Merget is here. Phil Merget is a huge fan, as you can see from right behind him. He is a diehard Jets and Mets fan for quite a while. Thank you so much for coming on, Phil.
Oh, this is awesome. I'm so happy to help out and help out the charity and get to talk to you and talk sports, which is the best.
Exactly. Which is going to be my first question. Why are we insufferable Mets fans?
Yeah, it's God created special people to be New York Mets fans, and we're lucky, I guess, to be them. And
Lucky.
One day, I'm gonna find you across the Canyon of Heroes parade, and it'll all be worth it. One day.
Exactly. One day. And how long have you been a fan of the Mets?
I would say 99, 2000-ish. I would say right around when they got Piazza, 98-ish. Right around when they got Piazza, I was late elementary school, and I remember they did a big Subway Series Day, and I mean that was a huge thing. And then in middle school, I remember they did a huge thing for the 9/11 ceremony, and so right around that time, that's where basically I really be that's it. I'm a New York Mets fan. This team, who let the dogs out? This team is just so different than the Yankees. They're my personality of a baseball team. Yeah.
What made the Mets really special to you, as not only as a fan but as a person? Because with fandom, there is always something that's sentimental within a person that makes them join the team. What was the one thing that made you think, okay, this will be my team for life?
So I grew up playing baseball, loved baseball, and my mom was diagnosed with actually breast cancer when I was younger, and my mom and my mom's really good friends. Actually, was a nun, believe it or not, and she came. And I know it's crazy story, but it's true. And she came and basically like another aunt to me. And she came. She got to help out around the house. My mom was going through chemotherapy and everything. And she's from Flushing, Queens, huge Mets fan. So as a kid, the games were always on. And that was right around 98, 99 when we got Piazza, like I talked about. And to me, that it was so much fun. And I'll never forget just basically, going to church with her and coming back home that night and seeing John Franco strike out Barry Bonds in Game 2 of the National League Divisional Series, and they needed that game after Benitez blew it, and I was like, oh man, I was 11 years old, and I still remember vividly, and oh my God, ever since then I was hooked. Yeah, for sure.
And and what was the? It's funny we have a similar story. We have mine was Mike Piazza, and coming from my side, I emigrated from another country, and everyone was a Yankees fan, from my family. So I was watching, when Piazza during the 9/11, it was the 9/11 game, and I was watching it on TV. It was everything was unfolding. You can feel the atmosphere in the air, and it was a really tense postseason game. And I'm like, all right, let's see how this goes. When Piazza was on before the home run, I'm like, this will be the guy. This will be the guy that'll hit that home run, and then that'll take us into the lead. And I was just I literally went backwards rally cap. We got to get this home run.
You got it. Yeah, of course.
Little did I know, it's oh my God, he hit the homer, and that solidified me for being a Mets fan for life. Which players kind of stood out to you as you came into Mets fandom?
Like I said, I mentioned John Franco, and as I talked to you briefly, I said, my family dog was named Franco after him, and it was a dachshund, so it was a Frankfurter type dog. So yeah, so it fit, and him, and then as a kid, this is another crazy story I'll share with you guys too. So, I was in the Mets fan club for kids, and like, so it is the greatest experience ever. So, hopefully one day when I'm fortunate enough to have children, I'd love to sign them up for Mets fan club for kids. And the player I'm going to name next is Benny Agbayani. And
okay.
Benny in the Mets is such a thing. I'm so happy he came back for Old Timers Day.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so I had a one-on-one catch with Benny Agbayani, and what he did was he was throwing like major league, big league pop-ups to the kids that you had to try to catch it. And so I'm on the back of the line and like, okay, time to go. And I didn't get a chance to go. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. So I'm like the last kid. This is all true. I didn't get a chance to go. So Benny Agbayani's like, wait, I swear to God, he's a professional ball player. He doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
It says little 12-year-old me or whatever. And so he starts taking the ball and he launches it up to me in the air. And let me tell you, I felt like Small from Sandlot, right? I was like, oh,
okay.
I put my mitt up, and I was like, I thought I knew how to play Little League. And so the ball came up, not even close to catching it, right? Yeah. And I was like, come on, Benny. But I'm a little cocky, so I was like, Benny, give me one more. Come on, Benny. And he throws the next one up, and he's like, listen, you got to turn your hips a little more when you go back. Caught it.
Yeah.
Caught it. I never forget that moment in my life. Caught it. And I have a photo of me, Benny Agbayani, Todd Pratt, and I believe the pitching coach or one of the assistant coaches, maybe Rick Downs, I think was in the photo. Yeah. I think it was at that time period. And it's us at the Mets team fan club for kids, which is awesome. And I was in the fan club for kids for many years. And a couple years after that, even when he didn't check birth certificates, I was like, all right, I'm still getting free tickets for Mets fan club for kids. Kept on putting my name in there. Let me shave a little bit. Oh, John Main's there? All right, I'm only 17. I'll show up. Did it. I did it. Yeah, exactly. So, but Mets fan club for kids is a good time. Highly recommend it. Anybody have children out there or anybody's close enough to pull off a kid and you want to shave and try to pull it off, recommend it as well.
It's funny you mentioned Agbayani. Like it was one game. It was like in the 2019 season, and I saw this old Jay. When I saw Jay over in the I think it was in the left field corner, and he was like shushing people away. And I have a photo of Benny as he left, and I think Jay was shushing people away because they don't want to overwhelm the guy. So I took a picture with Benny real quick. And I told him like, hey, you're like one of my childhood heroes growing up, as a Mets fan. And I saw a little bit of a star in his eye, and it's like, okay, I think I did my job. And I've seen him play so many times throughout the Mets season, the season as a kid, and it's like it's mind blowing to see your heroes, and time just stops, it just dilates, and next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, I got to be Benny Agbayani, but the next one will be Mike Piazza, but that'll be a super long shot too. So
yeah, to really meet him, it's tough. I see him in passing. He's been coming around much more now with Steve Cohen. And the new True Vodka Club that he just named, what used to be Caesars Club or Foxwoods Club last couple of years.
Yeah.
So he was there for that. He did a season ticket holder appreciation event. So he does come around a little bit. I have seen him in passing, but I've never been like, let me take a picture with you, Mike. I unfortunately I've not.
Yeah.
Like that with Franco or Agbayani, our childhood Mets for sure.
Well, Franco's just across the borough, so he's just right there. So it's like he's not too far.
He's not from Hawaii for sure. Yeah, exactly. He lives here, grew up here for sure, man. St. John's native. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess too, and we've both been fans for a while, and we've had a lot of. Well, this is going to be the next owner change too. How was the transition coming into the Cohen era? And I want to preface this too. We've been Mets fans for so long. How do we deal with heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak every season? Coming into Steve Cohen too. So yeah,
I think it's probably a two-part question if I had to answer it, right? So the first part of it would be, as a Mets fan, is that you have to reprogram your brain that the Wilpons don't own the team. So you have to think positively. You do. And I had friends, and the Mets were in first place all year, and they couldn't enjoy this season. And yes, we didn't know at the time that ultimately the demise was that series in Atlanta.
Right.
But like if you couldn't enjoy that big run, beating the Braves 4 out of 5 at home, DeGrom coming back, pitching like 5 perfect innings, and he had to pitch like a year, is insane. And like you can't enjoy that, or like the Dodgers series, Timmy Trumpet doubling down, inviting Timmy Trumpet to show up, and then Diaz does not blow the save. And like if you can't, like, oh, they shouldn't have done that. If you can't enjoy those things as a Mets fan, like, guess what? There's only one champion, and the Mets haven't done it in 30-something years. So to me, that's insane. You can't enjoy that. So as Steve Cohen, he's gonna spend the money. He's gonna spend it in this offseason. He's a new owner. He wants to win. Now later down the line, maybe it'd be different. He wants to win one championship first, and he's gonna keep spending and keep going over that luxury tax until he gets that World Series ring. For himself to say, I'm the best owner in New York, and for the fans to say, you're damn right you are.
Yeah, and especially it's funny how like his spending habits are similar to what George Steinbrenner had during his run with the World Series. Like he did not hesitate with Cohen didn't hesitate. It's like, all right, we got Lindor. All right, cool, we got Lindor. All right, you want to extend Lindor? We'll extend Lindor. Oh, we'll throw in Max Scherzer in the mix. We'll see how that works out. And seeing that type of like tenacity from Steve Cohen was like something I haven't seen since probably yet. It was the Piazza trade. They were very tenacious of getting Piazza. Even when I grew up, when we got like Delgado, when we got Pedro, like the Wilpons were going all in too, but it wasn't as very tenacious of what Steve did. Steve's like, nah, screw it. We're gonna get Lindor. We'll put him in the long-term deal, and that's over and done with. So that was refreshing to see with what's happening with the Mets too. So like even now during the postseason, especially with this offseason, like what do you think the Mets are gonna plan to do?
And it goes with the free agents that are Mets who are now free agents, right? So you also brought up the Wilpons and how they did go for, as you said, with the Delgado and stuff. Well, after the whole Bernie Madoff scandal, as everyone knows, they didn't really go out. They really didn't go and like go out of their way to retain their players, right? There is no reason why Zach Wheeler is the ace of the Philadelphia Phillies. If Steve Cohen is the owner of this team, that's not going to happen.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
So to me, Jacob deGrom or Diaz or Nimmo, those big guys of the free agents. Yeah, yes, those others. I think Trevor May, I think, right? Or Ottavino, right? I think there might be other guys in the bullpen. Right. But those guys like that, like those are the guys that you can bring back because of an owner like Steve Cohen, and you would not be able to do that with Wilpons. They didn't even offer Zach Wheeler a contract. Come on. They didn't even offer him, and he wasn't that good, but he was decent. Now he developed into a really good pitcher. And I get it. It wasn't like the Syndergaard thing where like, hey, he pitched like one inning and you didn't know, and Angels, you want to go out and give him this insane contract? Sure, for a year. Wheeler, they didn't even talk to him. Like that's the kind of stuff that won't happen. Yeah. That's the thing that gets you fired up as a fan base, that it won't happen. Now, ultimately, if DeGrom or these guys, if he goes to Texas or it's out of our control, fine. But we're gonna dollar for dollar, we're gonna match you. And I don't care. There's no state income tax in Texas or whatever the hell you want to go in Florida. We're gonna give you that match in New York because we're the Mets, and that's what I believe. Yeah.
No, especially I was thinking about it too. Like when I heard the news when Max Scherzer gets, I'm like, okay, Cohen was not fooling around. And one thing that I noticed, especially during the season, like you get to see the results. And granted, it was something that we didn't expect. And as much as I like to compare it, reminded me of 06 and 07. It's like we had so much progress and then we tripped. It's one of those things where you're like, oh man, it's like we had it. We absolutely had it. And say next there's always next season. And I always compare with the Mets as the Dodgers, like the old Brooklyn Dodgers. There's always next year. It's like we've had this next year for how many years now? And hopefully we'll get to that. We'll have to get to that point too.
It's gonna be tough. You have to be real. They had a really good opportunity this year. The positive is that Steve Cohen and these guys coming back. But the negatives, like DeGrom and Scherzer, are now getting older, and you had a 101 win team. In our lifetime, we never really seen it, right? So it's something that's so special, and you couldn't just win one game in Atlanta. So to me, that losing one game, like unless they would have swept the Padres, the playoffs, they lost the playoffs in Atlanta. Like you showed me, because I believe the Dodgers were beatable because they didn't really have a good bullpen, and Kershaw is old and beatable in the playoffs. So it's like, oh, maybe we can go in there and like you save Jake for a game 1 or game 2 of the Dodgers series, right? And you have a shot. Like we didn't do that. Once you lost to the Braves, that was it. That to me, that was the season, and it's very frustrating. But you're right. Always next year. But I don't know. Like you look at the 2006 Mets, they haven't been back, and then 2015, and so it's very frustrating. You had the division there, and they just lost it at the end.
Exactly.
And it's not like 2007 and 2008, man. It's not, because those years the Mets like basically collapsed and like they couldn't beat this. This is like you had it right in front of them, and you just, I don't know, you just couldn't do it. Like they beat the good team. It's just so like it wasn't like yes they lost to the Cubs. I understand people listening, but like all year long they were beating these teams, and it's insane. It's just insane that it wasn't like they won 85, 90 games. Like they won 101 games, and you just needed to win one more. You just needed to win 102. It's very frustrating, and I don't know, injuries. Who knows next year? You think Guillorme is going to be that good next year? I love Guillorme, but come on now, he's not batting 275, 280. He's not, and so but Brett Beatty maybe he steps in. Alvarez is a big piece. McCann or Nito, you got to trade one of the two of them. You got to do it, and I love Nito, but maybe you trade him. I don't want to rant, but it's very frustrating. You can see my passion coming out a little bit.
Exactly. I'm trying to hold it too, but I'm just like, wait, I have to.
Sorry. So I'll let you get to the next question.
I understand. No, I get it. It's just we're
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Frustrated. Yeah, we're both like we can tell like our frustrations are through the roof, and it's like at least this season it's an exception for me, because like especially with Cohen had all the pieces together, but of course it's stuff that's beyond our control, especially when people are being injured, and that's something that they have to throw precaution to the win, especially when DeGrom basically was just like 3/4 of the season, and then look, he's gonna start pitching it, and then we started winning, and then we tripped. Actually, the collapse I think is when they got swept by the Cubs, and I'm like, that's but it was still right
in front of them, though. You know what happened? Yeah. They haven't got swept by a bad team all season, man. It's baseball. It's going to happen. If that happened in April, no one would have said anything, right? Yeah. So maybe April goes the first month of the season, or May, no one would have said anything. So it was, to me, the Braves series, guess what? It didn't matter. It was all right there in front of them. You just had to win one game against the Braves. That was it.
Yeah. And they did literally trip at the finish line. It's like that tiebreaker cost us the season, and we had to face. And the Padres were still hot when they were coming into that wild card game. It's like, all right, we might have a chance. We might have a homestand. We'll probably get two. We'll probably get 2 out of the 3 games. No, it was just one giant trip. But it happens. I mean, that's the nature of baseball. We just don't know what's going to happen until it happens. Like that's one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, this we'll have to think that through, and we'll see how far the rabbit hole will go. And especially like now, the Phillies. No one expected the Phillies to show up in the World Series. Like Keith Hernandez was basically making fun of the Phillies because of the fundies that they have. Well, look where they're at now. They're playing tonight too. They're playing tonight against possibly the best team in baseball with the Astros. So like baseball can be such a fickle sport, but we still cling on to it every day.
Oh yeah, well, it's basically it's a summer sitcom, right? You watch it every day. It's like you get to know the characters, just like you get to know the players. So I totally agree. And Rob Manfred had to make that extra playoff. Thank God he didn't make another spot, because it gets ridiculous now. 87 wins and a team's in the World Series. It went from like, wow, the 69 Mets, like this is actually a championship series. It went from like they extended it to a championship series, and that was like crazy back then. To now it's like 3 wildcard teams. It's a lot. It was that playoff series was tough, because the game 1, it started out being, I was at all 3 games, and it started out being exciting, and it was rough. Game 2, oh my God, it was so exciting. It was such an exciting game. Game 3, you didn't mention I'm a big Jets fan. I have Jets season tickets, so I went to the Jet game, and somehow they beat the Dolphins, which is insane, because let's be real here. I don't think the Jets are going to be that good this year, and somehow they beat the Dolphins. And then and now everyone from the stadium's like, let's go to City Field. Everyone's going. So it was crazy, man. It was crazy. And half this, I would say, like a good 20% of the stadium is wearing jet gear because they came from the MetLife off the City Field. It was crazy. Yeah. And of course, and Mets came out flat as always.
Yeah, it's like at that point we just accept it, but at the same time, it's kind of interesting. Like we've hung on to this team for quite a while, and it's like one of those things where, like it's surreal seeing them finish that way. But it's like it's literally. I overheard this from a lot from the sports radio stations here in New York. It's like it's an obituary. I'm like, that's actually par for the course. It's actually par for the course with the Mets season too, and with and also like and coming also with the with the football season too. Like, which fandom came first? Was it the Jets or was it the Mets?
The Mets. Mets are my number one. Jets are 1A. And my best friend since pre-K, believe it or not, I've known him since pre-K. Another crazy thing about my life that I'm safe. How many people say, "Oh, I know him since middle school, I'm in elementary school." I know this kid basically since we both like learn how to like go to the potty training together, basically. Right? And basically, and his dad. Yeah, and his dad basically had Jets season tickets for years, and he had it. After many years, he's like, I'm done. I'm fed up with the Jets. And the way the Jets in the football and some of these stadiums is that the PSLs. Are you familiar with what a PSL stands for? Or MetLife?
No, can you explain that? Because I've never heard about. You can explain how that works for NFL games.
So a lot of the big time stadiums, the Jets, Giants, LA, I'm sure the new Rams Stadium, Dallas, like a lot of the big newer stadiums, big sports markets, they have this crazy racket going where it's called a personal seat license, a PSL.
Oh,
and it's basically the right to buy the seat. And so I technically own the seat because it's MetLife Stadium. There's probably some Giants schmuck who also a Giants fan, but it's true, who also owns my seat. So we basically split it with MetLife Stadium. So in reality, if I won let's say if you wanted to buy Jet tickets or Giant tickets, and you got to pay about $5,000 up front to buy a PSL right, one-time fee, and then you buy seasons every year. So to me, because of my good friend and his dad, he's like, hey, I'm just gonna, basically gave me a really good deal, and rather than paying like $10,000 for 2 seats for the Jets, which is absurd. He's like, God. he basically gave me a deal like, don't worry about the PSLs kind of thing, and it was a very low price, and I kind of that's the only reason why I got into it as far as getting a season ticket holder. Now I've been a Jets fan early 2000s since like Curtis Martin, late Testaverde, Chad Pennington years, but
oh my God,
I became
all the way back.
I became a season ticket holder. I went to him. I went to games as a kid with him because he lived down the block from me, and my dad my dad was more into baseball, and so they were more a football family. So for me, I had my football with him and my best friend growing up, and I had baseball with my dad and things like that. And my parents, my mom, they're both still alive. I know him. So, but so it's nice to do that. And so for me, I had the Jets in the fall and the Mets in the spring and summer. And I got season tickets around 2017 because I had a really good break with the PSLs because that's how I got into it. As far as like being a season ticket holder, but I've been a fan. I remember going to games and like being maybe 13 or 14. The Jets played a game like the day after Christmas, and it was like for first place, and it was it was like the Tom Brady versus like a Chad Pennington Jets team with Herm Edwards was the head coach.
That's an unlikely matchup, by the way.
And and I remember all I wanted to Christmas was to go to this game. Like what a moron I was at 14, but that's all I wanted. So I go to the game, and it's a little bit snowy, and of course the Jets lose. Teddy Bruschi intercepts Chad Pennington, and the game. The Jets lose in heartbreaking.
Remember this?
Jets lose in like heartbreaking fashion. I was like, oh man, it's my Christmas. I just got embarrassed by the end of it. But that was a deception that changed the whole game or whatever. I just remember being like, it's what I wanted.
It's like I got what I paid for. This is
Yeah. It was it was a very, very crazy experience. Very, and the thing about the Jets, which is great, and is their football fans are so like loud and passionate that like it's like the tailgating, and like I just love the experience where in game day the Jets are terrible. it's still fun for tailgate with friends.
Right.
Where the Mets, it's a completely different vibe. It's passion, but it's not as like in your face like that. It's more like it's a grind, man. It's 162 games, so you're not going to get as upset because turn on SOY tomorrow or go to Citi Field tomorrow because they're going to play again. So it's different intensity. I love them both so much. Obviously, Patchman, I'm a super fan for the Mets. The Jets, I wear a suit jacket, have some fun, and those are my sports moods.
I'm curious too. You had the moniker as Patchman. How did the Patchman moniker came to be? Like, when did you start collecting patches and adding them to let's say to your jacket? Like, when did that start?
So, like I mentioned, like I grew up playing baseball. My dad coached my little league team, and I'll be honest. The time I got to like, middle school, once the kids started throwing hard, or like early high school, I knew I wasn't going to cut it as a ball player. All right, it took me a couple of times to catch a Benny Agbayani pop up. All right, there's no way I make it to the big leagues. Okay, so to be honest with you, so I always like the crowd, and Cowboy Man. I'm sure you know Cowboy Man or heard Cowboy Man around.
Oh my God, Eddie! I met him so many times. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I drilled you.
Yeah, of course. And I actually, being Patchman, I became close to Pin Man, right? And I'm real close with Nicky. He's a great guy. And and so those guys, right? Those guys are like, they just like they make it so fun. They basically like if the Mets suck, like they're still like fun to hang out with at the game. And it's like,
absolutely.
Yeah. So and like also those guys are older gentlemen, and so there's no one like our generation who's a super fan really for the New York Mets. I mean, there's people on social media and stuff, but there's no one like who's an old school super fan who just goes to the games. Like I use social media, but I'm not the greatest with it. So I just go to the games. I interact with you and stuff like that, but reality, like you got to talk to me. Talk to me at the games and hang out. And so I always wanted to do something like that, right? And my wife, the girlfriend at the time, she was like, "Why don't you just go for it?" She's like, "Just do it." It's like, and I'm like, "All right." I'm like, well, I had this plan in mind for a while now, and I was like, "Well, there really is no Patchman," and it kind of goes with the Mets theme. There's a Cowboy Man, right?
Yeah.
There's a Pin Man. And I was like, "There's no Patchman," but if I'm gonna do it, there's guys who have jerseys with just a billion patches on it, so I'm not gonna stand out, right? I'm not gonna prove to myself like I'm not like a worthy super fan to the Mets community. So I found on like online there's a Halloween jacket that's like shortcut orange sleeves, and it looks identical to the old Shake Stadium Usher jackets.
Right.
And then I found like Mets golf pants that are like say Mets all over it and like or crazy. And I saw like Rick DiPietro, even though I'm a Ranger fan, I saw him do something. I saw him wear those pants. I'm like, where can I find those pants? And I met him at like the Belmont Steaks a couple of years ago, and I was like, hey, he's like, I got it. Listen, I know it's crazy. Remember that time with the pants? He's like, oh no, it's here, and he gave me the link, and so I bought the pants, and I debuted 5 years ago. Got all the. I started collecting patches on eBay, try to get them at games, and try to like really build up over the years. And now the last 5 years, I'm always at the team store. They all know me. I was hey, any new patches today, Phil? Yeah. And so, and sewing it on, like I got a shout out to Janine, my mother-in-law, and Jenna, my wife, who helped sew this on, which is, what you see behind me today. And
there you go. There it is.
There it is, folks. Those who are watching. And there it is today. And the rest is history. And I'm happy the Mets fans, you guys like me as a community, because it's tough to be a super fan and be like, who the hell is this guy now? But
what? Like, excuse me? Who is this?
Right. And I blend in, and honestly, I don't walk around as much as I should. And I try to do it more if I'm with Pin Man or with Cowboy Man. But I don't know. Sometimes I want to watch a game. Like once the game starts, like I'm watching that game. I'm not walking around yelling, "Let's go Mets." I usually do that pre-game, like around the stadium.
Yeah, exactly.
To be honest, yeah. But
it's funny,
that's the story of Patchman.
I remember Eddie. He would always roam. Like he would always roam. Like every inning, you would hear the Cowboys. Like, oh, Eddie's doing his thing. He's doing his thing right now. It's like, and it riles up. It hypes up like the the crowd if it's a closed game and you hear the cowbell, everyone starts clapping. If it's a cowbell, regardless of like the situation, you hear the cowbell, everyone's gonna get hyped up with the game during the season too. Do you remember your first patch that you got?
That's a good question. Yeah, and yes, I do. I just people ask me a million questions. The thing I'll get the most is like when I walk in and the usher's like, "Are you a Mets fan?" Like I probably get that like 5 times a game. But trust me, my can I see on the side? My first patch is right here. Okay, so let me pull it up here, folks who are watching TV. It's a it's a Scout Day patch. So I am a proud Eagle Scout myself. And so the Scout Day, and so it's the first one I got. And then obviously through the years, I got some vintage ones. Being a phys ed teacher myself, I got Mr. Met exercising. So I really wanted to be
so nice.
Team store, and like I went to Mets, the QBC. Have you ever heard of the QBC?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Highly recommend going. People listening who are Mets fans, highly recommend going to the QBC. That is awesome. Yeah. It's a Queens baseball convention.
Yep.
That's what I think it's December 3rd. I want to say this year. So, those folks who are listening, I'm not sure when you think you produce it sometime in December. It's coming out. You said or November.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So December 3rd. And I got some patches from there. And there's a lot of Mets vendors who have old Mets yearbooks and baseball cards and autographs and Shea Stadium game use memorabilia, chairs, seats, like cup holders, like crazy stuff. Bartolo Colon's going to be there, Big Sexy.
Here we go.
R.A. Dickey's going to be there. All right.
Oh my gosh.
And Hojo Howard Johnson is going to be there this year signing autographs for fans. Yeah. So
yeah, interesting.
Highly recommend it if you're around and people listening. It's awesome. Maybe get Trevor May to stop by. I don't know, but. Would be awesome for sure.
We'll pencil them in. What makes New York sports fandom such a unique entity? Because I went to Houston. Houston has its own crowd. The Rangers have their own crowd. The Yankees have their own crowd too. And what makes New York fandom such a unique entity in the sports world?
New York, well, be honest, like it's the only real city that has like multiple 2 teams on multiple sports. You have the Chicago, they have, it's only basically baseball. There's only one football team, right? Or there's only one hockey team, right? So New York is, it's so many people and so many people passionate about different things, sports as being one of them, like us, that it just makes it crazy. There's so many people. So there's, rather than just have a rivalry with, New York versus those scums in Philadelphia, right? It's. Oh, I'll say. I have no problem saying it. No problem saying that. And so, I'm listening to this. I'm sure the time this airs. I'm sure they won the World Series. Please. Okay. Anyway, so but that's a division rival that I just named,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
But you have like New York is also like there's a Met Yankee rivalry, which is something completely different. That like Houston and Texas can experience it a little bit now because they're within the division. But an example you gave, but that's completely different than a lot of these other cities. Like California, it's a state, it's not a city. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Like you said, New York, it's such a different dynamic where you're in the you can be on the subway, or and someone's in a Met hat and someone's in a Yankee hat. That passion, it's different, and. Mets fans, when we wear Met clothes, it's a real Mets fan. A lot of times people wear Yankee hats for style, and Mets fans can be worn for style, but a lot of times it's for like, I look good, look at my new blimp, look at my Met hat. However, like, we won last night. Like, like DeGrom killed it on the bump. Like, let's go. Like, like there's a difference between like Mets fans and Yankee fans, which is clearly different. But the passion, the Yankee fans have that history, and they have that history where teams don't have. And then you go to football, and it's like, the Jets and Giants are like, it's such a like New York's such a baseball town. However, like NFL is king, where Jets and Giants they sell out. Like this Sunday, the Jets are probably gonna get killed to the Bills. I got them 5-3
already.
No, please. And the game sold out. The game sold out, and it's crazy. It's crazy. And so. People go and people go to football because there's so many Jets Giants. Hockey can't be carried everywhere. Rangers sell out every game. The Knicks have been terrible for years. I'm a Knicks fan, and they've been terrible for years. They sell out every game. It's like an event. It's crazy. We have basically New Jersey, New York. We have two soccer teams, two MLS soccer teams, and NYFC and Red Bull. Like, this city is passionate, and the fans are crazy. And you look at other cities, like Philadelphia or Boston. Like, there's only Chicago, really, other sports. There's only one. We can support two sellouts at the same time. We can do that.
Yeah.
No, that's what makes New York crazy. It's the number of passionate people like us who go, it's game day, get up, let's go. It's going to be an amazing day. And then when it's not, you go, God damn it, when's the next game?
Next game.
Yeah. And that's how it works. That's how it works. When spring training, or when who they play next Sunday, or you know what I mean, like, or you go to the Garden, and it's like Rangers Islanders is a huge rivalry, or Knicks Nets is kind of a rivalry, but it's more like Knicks versus another historical teams.
Yeah.
But it's still technically it's two teams in New York City, so it's definitely New York is crazy. And I'm sure you could say, living in Texas, people I'm sure people who are Astro fans down there, or Ranger fans, right?
It's a mixture. It's a mixture of both teams. But when I came across, because I do live in Austin, where they do have their MLS team. So they have Austin FC, which lost to I think it was LAFC for the final. But like, seeing, especially on the Major League Baseball side, like, I see a lot more with more of the Astros, at least in my block. Mileage may vary, but I can tell, even though they're far apart. Like, I recently went to see the Mets play against the Astros back in June, and man, like, especially the Mets corner in the dugout, and I'll picture it this way. There are a lot of "Let's go Mets," and immediately the whole stadium turned on them. They just blocked out everything. They just blocked out the entire stadium with boos. It's like, yep, that's par for the course for a Met game. So it's kind of interesting seeing that.
As it should be. They're the Astros are the home team. They're good, so they should sell out and drown out their fans. But listen, New York fans travel. New York City, we travel. Met fans, they travel. If you go to a Marlins game, you'll swear it's Mets South. It's crazy. Yeah. I don't know if you've been down there. Stadium isn't the greatest, but it's Mets South. Let me ask you a question. Have you been to other stadiums besides, I guess, Minute Maid and Citi Field? Have you been to any other stadiums?
Man, that's a good question. Like, throughout my time here, because throughout my time, I went through, let's see here, Shea, Old Yankee, New Yankee, City, Minute Maid, Globe Life Park, and Globe Life Field. There's two versions of the Rangers ballpark and Fenway. So I went through eight stadiums, and every stadium is very different. Like, it has its own atmosphere, but it's still the same diamond, but the fans around it are different. Like, recently, like, before I left for Texas, I went to see at the new Yankee Stadium, and it's like, it's loud, and it was a Subway Series too. So, like, it's a different vibe. And when you go back to Citi Field, it's that similar atmosphere. But I think also it's like there's this. It's not really. It's more of a competitive rivalry, and of course, insulting your dad here and there on a Yankees game on occasion. But like, I see the passion especially with Yankees and Mets fans. Like, it's undying. It's like, especially during the playoffs, and I was watching. When when the Mets play the Padres, and it's like, wow, even in game 2, like, you can tell the crowd was electric. They're going to pull all the stops to root for the Mets. So, like, yeah, but every stadium will have its own vibe, and seeing where that is kind of like interesting how that works too. And do you see like, I've been listening to this too from a lot of my friends and my coworkers. Like, do you see a correlation between Mets and Jets fans?
100%. 100%, yeah. Of course, there's Mets Giants, right, or Yankees Jets. You're right. I have friends who are both, right, who do. But the Mets and Jets are history. There's history playing at Shea Stadium together. The 69 Mets and Joe Namath's 68-69 Jets Super Bowl. they playing at Shea Stadium like that, and that history, brings them together. The Jets practice on Long Island at Hofstra for many years. It's a shame they don't come back there. I know they have the beautiful stadium, a practice facility at Florham Park, but it's a shame they don't come practice at Hofstra. But that's for another day. And at least once a year for the fans, God forbid.
Okay.
But honestly, so the Jets and Mets they are very similar, and they're that personality. They're the lovable losers. They're the person when they're loud when they win because oh my gosh, and they're the person who's even louder and whining when they lose. This can't be, and until they win, they're so hungry and they're so passionate. Where it's harder to be a front runner. That's those type of people who really aren't front runners, and it's true. You see someone with you go to the supermarket, everyone's wearing jet gear. People are let's go Jets. They're talking about the game that's Zach Wilson. I just don't trust him. And I'm talking to a clerk in a ShopRite. It's like a teenager. Hell yeah, he's a bust. It's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Or talking to the Mets too. It's what a letdown in Atlanta. I'm I know. God damn it, House of Horrors down there. And you talk to these people, and it's great. Yeah, man. It's just So those type of people, I Mets and Jets. My persona. It's basically who I am. I love those teams. I'm passionate. I'm never gonna. I'm loyal. I'm never going to say die. It's a personality. It's a lifestyle.
Right.
It is. It is. And you talk to people like me. There's a lot of Mets and Jets fans out there, and let me tell you, they have scars among scars, but the ones who saw the 86 and the 69, they'll tell you it was totally worth it.
Exactly. No, I mean, even in 15, it's we got this far. Now what? It's now what?
So let me ask you this: what loss hurt you the most, sports wise? Obviously, yeah.
Wow.
You do Mets. I know you have Mets football. You can do Mets. What Met? Well, I can tell you what Met lost.
I got plenty, but 07. Yeah. 07. That was
07. What the final game or the collapse itself or?
Probably when. No, I take that back. When the Mets played the Marlins at Shea, and they lost. That was.
Well, here's the crazy part. Yeah. So that was okay. So you're talking about 2008. You're saying.
Yeah, that's what it is. The last game at Shea, because I watched it on TV, and it's I'm hopeful. This will work out. They'll probably win at home, and it's it was just a burial that season in 08, and it's this is the last game that the Mets will play in Shea, and this is how you're gonna go out with a whimper. And then they had the ceremony was very great. It's really nice, and it's nice to see all. It's kind of like the old timers day from this season. It's seeing all these old Met players show up, and then when Seaver and Piazza showed up, everyone was just up. Everyone broke out in applause, and it's it was a nice ceremony. But in hindsight, I was watching the post game. It's yeah, way to go out with a whimper there, and then we're moving into Citi Field, and it's all right, cool. We're setting the tone all the way down to the ground, and it's and it hurt me because I was we were just seeing the Mets just unravel, but I was still hopeful we'll get to that point someday, and it's kind of it's oh man, words cannot describe it. I'm gonna ask that back to you. What's been that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's insane that he didn't do the ceremony beforehand. Now, it's to me, if you really want, you can have Piazza and Seaver throw out one more pitch to make it the final pitch. But it doesn't matter because if they make the playoffs, they win. That's not the final pitch anyway. So it's so insane that they didn't do it before the game. It's ridiculous. Okay. It's ridiculous, but to me, the hardest personal loss is the 2006 Game 7. I was there.
That's my number 2.
Number 2. I was there, and it felt when obviously I can't tell you, I can't say it felt like 86 Game 6, but based on from people I know who have been there, and based on videos and things I watched and things like that. It felt going to that game where it was just it was lawlessness. People I saw people with a bass drum and it's how do you allow this to bring these into the stadium? Like a band, and it was fans, kazoos, and out of control mayhem. the Jumbotron was blasting like, "There's no place like home. There's no place like," and showing Dorothy, like, this is great. And everyone's waving the rally towels, and to me, that was the first playoff series I ever been to. So
Right.
I didn't go to the ones in 99, 2000. So that was the first time, and that wasn't my first playoff game, but that was the first like year I went in 06. And so to me, so that was, oh my God. And then when when Chavez caught the ball and it's out of control, and then Beltran comes up and there's 2 strikes now.
Okay.
And 2 strikes on him, and the guy, some people like aren't even watching the game. They're just like praying to the sky. Like, this is wild. And when he struck out, and Wainwright and Yadier and all started celebrating on the mound.
Yeah.
Some guy literally took a seat, unscrewed a back seat from Shea, and just like threw it. And like how did he get it? I said, like, this must have been crazy if the Mets would have won. And Beltran was the Cardinal killer back then. He had it with the Astros a couple years ago. He actually had a good series. He had a couple home runs in the series. And this is like, oh my God, this is the Mookie Wilson moment. Here we go. Extra base hit. Not only ties the game, sends them to the World Series. Oh my God. And he didn't swing the bat. And I can never forgive him for it.
I remember he froze. I was like, well, that's it.
And I can't forgive him for it. And Beltran, and I'll say it on this podcast, I respect what he did for Met. He will never be an all-time Met for me. Mookie Wilson will always be, for me, the all-time Met center fielder. Beltran, statistically, I totally get it. He is.
Yeah.
I can never count on him. Just in his cheating scandals later, like, you couldn't cheat for us. You didn't know a curveball was coming. Like, come on, man. I can't. I'm sorry. I love Beltran, but I hate Beltran at the same time.
Yeah. I remember watching that too, and it's like it was like an adrenaline. Sadly, I had to watch the Fox broadcast at the time, and it's like, come on, Joe Buck, he caught the ball. You make it sound like he doesn't even know what he's doing, and it's like, when I heard the radio call was way better. But when I forgot who had the home run that gave the Cardinals the lead, I was like, yep, that's over. It's over. That was it. But if
Yadier Molina off Aaron Hellman. Oh yeah.
It was that was Yachty. That was Yachty. And then when I saw the home, I was like, that's it. It's done. Because like that, Yachty has been the Met killer for quite a while.
He's retired.
We might have a chance to fight against the NL Central at that point. It's like, we have a chance. We have a chance.
I was more worried about playing the Cardinals in the playoffs than the Dodgers or anybody else this season. I was like, oh my God, the Cardinals? Like, Pujols is still around, Yadier Molina? Wainwright's still around? You gotta be kidding me. Like, Jeff Suppan comes out of retirement, I'm gonna lose it. I can't. So, please.
And we were worried about Goldie and Arenado, because I'm like, they're already like high caliber players, and like coming into it, I was like, I'm glad we didn't face them at the time. And then when we faced the Padres, who were starting to get hot, and I'm like, yep, next season.
Nah, they should have. They still should have beat the Padres. They let Trent Grissom become Daniel Murphy for a playoff series. Like that can't happen. I'm sorry, no, that can't happen.
There was a comparison of that to Barry Bonds. I'm like, that was not far from the truth. I forgot who mentioned. I think that was Evan Roberts over in FAN. He's like, yeah, he's the Barry Bonds of this series. I'm like, that's not too far from the course there, actually. So
Evan Roberts is great. His Rico Bronya podcast is entertaining. I enjoy that after a bit, Saturdays, him and Joe and Evan. You ever listen to Joe and Evan when they were together?
I've been listening to them since ever since like I got my car. I was listening to FAN on the afternoon.
The best. I mean, to me, they're probably my favorite. Because the Mets and Jets guys, and it's very rare. It's always a Met and a Yankee, or a Jet and a Giant, or it's very rare to have like two guys. Mets and Jets, and like they just like Joe Beningo's like that old fan. It's like, they never win.
The pain.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like Evan Roberts is that sports nerd who never seen a championship, and they were just so good together. And I don't know if you know, but on Saturdays in the fall, like 10 a.m., they're doing a show right now.
I'm listening to that on the podcast version. I listen to them on podcasts because it's just 1,500 miles away, and it's like, okay,
yeah, dude, Odyssey out. Oh yeah, do the Odyssey out.
That's I've been listening to. It's a little bit of piece of home too, especially and with Joe. Joe has been there since day one, and I salute him for being a day one, for being a Mets fan. It's like I get it. I get what it means to be a Mets fan, but he's been there since basically back since the day one of the Mets. So it's like,
oh yeah, the way he talks about the Mike Scioscia home run in '88 is how we talk about the Beltran striking out. That to me, the way that's how I feel. So I get it. I have to say this about Joe though. He's too anti-DeGrom. He's been squatting on an anti-DeGrom take for insane, and like it basically, unless DeGrom leaves us for somewhere else, and we find out that we gave him the same money and like he wanted to go somewhere else, then I totally get it. Double on DeGrom. He's been squatting on this. He's squatting on this take too much. It's like, relax. Jake's our guy, and everyone keeps him in check with that. Jake is, he's our simple man. He's our generation Seaver, and I don't want to hear that Jake slander. I do not. I don't want to hear it right now.
No, I'm still in the Jake bandwagon. I'm the cautiously optimistic DeGrom fan because the only thing that's hampering me from having him long term was just the injuries. I remember when he had the back-to-back Cy Youngs, and you
can't let him walk though. You can't let him walk.
Exactly.
Sorry, like I don't care about injuries. Nope. Steve Cohen, you said he has money to buy whatever. You can't let him walk. That's Zach Wheeler. That's Zach Wheeler all over again. I don't want to see DeGrom winning a World Series, or pitching for a World Series for another team. No, unacceptable. Sorry, it's not.
I know Cohen's gonna fight to keep DeGrom for sure, and even like with Diaz and with Nimmo, like he's gonna fight to keep them in the squad and to at least have that semblance of this past season's squad. That's something that needs to be taken care of because we've had a lot of consistent players like Nimmo, McNeil. I mean, heck, he had the batting title. Like, come on, the guy's been hitting left and right for the entire season, and even in the bullpen, like with Ottavino, with May, with Lugo. Hopefully Lugo comes back because Lugo have had because I've seen him as a starter back in 2016. Like that guy is electric no matter where in the mountains. So to have that semblance of that squad this season, I think we might have a chance. But of course, this is baseball. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, heck, the Phillies are in the World Series. Like we don't even know the odds of that happening. So it's just we'll have to see until the last out of the World Series and see how that progresses too. So
yeah, I mean the Dodgers. Everyone like the Dodgers win like 100 games every year. The Dodgers make the playoffs every year, and they only have one World Series, and that was the 2020 season. So the COVID year. So baseball is very crazy. So, but guess what? You got to make it in. And with Steve Cohen, and now this new extra wild card spot, hey, you never know, man. You just got to make it into the playoffs. So that gives me the positive hope and vibes that I believe in, and spring training and stuff. But they're gonna they need it. My thing, I think they need another bat. They need another hitter in this lineup, preferably a power hitter. Trey Turner, those guys are nice. They need another guy. I like Josh Bell a lot. I'm pissed the Nationals didn't want to give him up to us. I think you need a guy like that. He's a switch hit, bro. He's a switch hitter. It's pop.
All right, fine. We'll go with that.
No, but like you need a guy. You need a power. You can't rely on Alonso and Lindor. You need another guy in the lineup. They have too many contact hitters, which is amazing, and that's how I love it. That's how you win games. But in the playoffs, you need pop.
Yeah.
Okay, pitching and pop. That's the playoffs. Look at the Phillies. Nola and Wheeler, and then they got Hoskins, Schwarber, Harper. They have pop. We don't have that really. If a guy gets hot, like Canna got hot, or Escobar got hot for a month. No, you need another big time bat in that lineup. To me,
exactly. And we're gonna close out. And I talked to you before this before recording. Let's pull out something. And as fandom, we do collect a lot, as you can see. Where to go? Oh, god dang that! I can't tell. I have my memorabilia here. There's something missing there. I'll pull that out. If you have something that's whether it's a Jets memorabilia or a Mets memorabilia, like let's pull that out. Let's do some show and tell.
All right. So you see behind me here. You see me? Okay, awesome. So this is like my wall, wall of fame here. Okay. Can you see me?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So I have up here an autographed football. It says "Good luck, Phil." By Joe Namath, which is pretty awesome.
Okay.
I have over here the first Mets yearbook ever. There's a baby Met that goes for a lot of money. It's crazy. Like so they even get it in a mint condition. It's insane. So I have this, and then over here, this is the '69 Mets yearbook, and it's autographed. I don't know if you can see, but it's autographed by a lot of Mets. And Clean Bull, who became I got him close at Crane Pool. I met him several times, and as I mentioned to you a little bit, he did come over to my house for like
That's right.
to raise money for his kidney and stuff. That was great. So Crane Pool on there, Cleon Jones. I like a lot of guys on there. My guy Benny Agbayani. Our guy Mike Piazza.
Yeah.
And it's inscription with the 7-1 comeback against the Atlanta Braves on Fireworks Night in 2000.
I remember that game too.
And so I like that. Obviously, that means a lot to me. This is the bat signed by Reyes and Wright, the corner infield. And then this wall to wrap it up. And then all Mets. I have the 2000 Mets yearbook, a World Series program.
Wow.
Signed by I would say about a quarter of the team. And I did ask John Franco to write "Who Let the Mets Out," but he said no. That's not his song. But luckily, Chuck Wendell did write "Who Let the Mets Out" for me right here.
There you go.
So yeah, just I just wanted to show off my wall a little bit, and these are my bobbleheads here. Like I said, I do have every Mets bobblehead giveaway, mass produced one ever. So anyone like 15,000, 20,000, I have every one. Yeah, I've been like that for many years, and then you can thank the government for a little stimmy money. Help me finish that off.
There you go.
All right, man. Your turn. Show and tell, man.
I only have one. I'm gonna end the recording and we're done here. No, just kidding.
No, come on, listen, man. It's all good.
I tease. So this is just one box. So this box came in 2020. So I wonder. This is with every Mets season holder. So
that's a season ticket holder box from last year.
So this is from a couple years ago. So what's interesting about this box? This was. I'll pull off the.
You have the letter. You have the letter from Cohen in there.
No, this is the Wilpon still. This is from like 2020.
Oh, okay.
So this is the pandemic season where I had to do that. But one interesting note too, like this is like the guide to say, hey, this was back in 20. So I signed up for a 4. This is the so 4. Hold on, let me just before I make a fool out of myself. This was the
2020 season that never happened with the ticket stubs.
12. Yep. Yeah, I still got it here. This is the 20-game Saturday plan. So I still have. This was the old guard. This is like DeGrom. This is like Syndergaard, like this, and this was I paid it in full in 2020. Like all of the pretty much like in Conforto, you can see Conforto is still in the ticket holders.
I like Conforto. I always like Conforto. So yeah. I'm a good
like guy. Syndergaard, and we have like, and it keeps going. This was a 20-game plan. Here's the thing: I bought this back in 2019. I actually got seats on the 9/11 game, and what the ticket guy was gracious enough for me to let me sit in the dugout. So like that was like incentive. Like, hey, we're gonna let you sit behind the dugout to sit 420 feet above you, because this was I always sit in the 420s. Whenever I watch a Met game, I can't do field seats. It's not. I mean, it's cool to see the players I play, but I want to see the entire field and see how the formation, how the shift works, and how the outfield works, and how I mean, I may not.
Listen, don't explain yourself to me. My Saturday seats are 412. I think it's the best.
I'm in 420.
Yeah, I think it's the best view in the house, man. Like I said, anyone want to see me, I'm always in 412, especially on a Saturday. It's cheaper than the 300s, and you still get the same view as you see the whole field right beyond the plate, and you get access to a lot of the clubs you would in if you sat in 300s and you had a Saturday or Sunday plan for sure.
Exactly.
So you don't have to explain yourself to me, man.
Fair enough. No, but for me, like I bought in 2019. Long story short, the pandemic happened, and they were telling us that, hey, there is a good chance that it might get refunded, but we'll get back to you. That was back in March. So like that was back in March 2020. It's like, yeah, we're gonna let you know. And then they were starting to do the partial refunds. Little did I know, I was actually having my thoughts of moving here in Texas. So like if the pandemic never happened, I would have had a nice 20-game season with them. I would have stayed in New York a little bit longer, in New Jersey in particular. So like this was just like the catalyst. Like this was just like the catalyst for me to move here. So that's why it was memorable for me, because I'm like, otherwise, if the pandemic never happened, I would have stayed here a little longer. And this is where we're at right now. This is like this is what we're doing right now. If it weren't for the pandemic happening, it's like I would have have stayed. Otherwise, I would be like, cool. I'm gonna go. It's a little bit more sentimental because now I can safely say I am a Mets ticket holder. That was the gist of that. I am a proud 20 game holder, and I still have the tickets from the pandemic year. I can safely say that's gonna be that's gonna be on there on the set there behind me. So, wow, we are somewhat we're overtime, but sky's not gonna fall over that. And Patchman, where can we find you on socials, and where can we find you on socials, and where can we see you in Mets games?
Perfect. Well, first of all, that's an awesome collection. I just want to say that you keep that because that season never happened. So those ticket stubs, not only not during any seasons, I think the following season might be that season might be the last time they actually had ticket stubs, and then ticket holders now are on the phones, digital.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you keep that. I actually have that as well, being a Saturday plan holder. So I actually I have. So you keep that in nice condition because that's a cool collector's item for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna grade that too. So for sure.
Anyway, so yes, I'm Patchman Phil. Patchman Phil, Instagram. Patchman Phil, Twitter. Pretty simple. Reach me at Met games. Usually, like I said, usually at 4:12, especially on Saturdays. That's my Saturday seats are 4:12. Shout out to my 4:12 family who hopefully watches podcast later. You guys stuck around for this long. I love you guys. And Jet games, I sit down in section 146, which is the corner end zone, and we have a good time tailgating. And I usually tailgate in between the G and F lot. And I met a lot of friends from 412 who go to Met game or go to Jet games, and vice versa. For me, who 146 people who tailgate by the flags and the G and F in between the G and F lot. I think it's like G11, I want to say, but it's like a concrete area. Those of you who know MetLife Stadium, you know that you see all the flags, all the Jet flags or Giant flags, and there's an American flag, and there's a POW flag, and it walks you right to the MetLife gate. That's I usually always tailgate right there. Yeah.
There you go. Awesome. And that is our conversation with Patchman Phil. A lot has happened since that conversation took place back in 2022. Jacob deGrom did wind up signing with the Texas Rangers the following season, and he winds up winning a World Series ring with the team, though he was injured for a good part of that season. And the Mets, being the Mets, find ways to not make it to the playoffs another season. But us Mets hopeful, like Phil and myself, we find ways to give ourselves hope so that one day, we can see that World Series trophy. And if they do win the World Series, down the line, I will make time to fly to New York City and just go to Lower Manhattan and see the ticker tape parade with Phil. So next week, we're going to go do more interviews. We're going to focus more on the wrestling side, and I cannot wait to share who the guest is. And you can follow us on our social media platforms, on X, on Instagram, on Threads, as well as Spotify at PGTK Pod. And if you would like to be a featured guest on this podcast, just give us an email at pgtkpod@gmail.com. And thank you so much for watching. Be awesome with each other, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of the PGTK Podcast, an interview podcast.